So, the second episode of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has been released, and I have to say, I am still impressed with it. Things are progressing rather well, I think, and the writers are taking some slight interest in telling a bit of a broader story. They're taking the time to flash back to certain events not necessarily described in the book, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. And it's nothing so far that hasn't been like talked about in the Duncan Egg stories. Actually, we just get to spend a little bit more time with Sir Arlen of Pennytree, who is a fun character, with a fair bit of complexity to him and his traits, both positive and negative. Also going to throw in there, this show has so far had actually a lot more nudity than the book itself, which is you know it's something. The more you know, I guess. But anyway, in the present day, Sir Dunk is at the Ashford tourney, and we finally get to learn a little bit more about Egg, his new squire, and their relationship is definitely like, well, it's the obvious highlight of the show, right? It's what the show is about. But it maybe the single greatest highlight is Egg himself, who is played just really very well by Dexter Soul Ansel, which is what a name, by the way. But Egg is already one of the best written characters in George R. R. Martin's universe, and the kid in this is just very well portrayed, well acted. This smart kid who's a little impish and who nevertheless has these like big ambitions, these big dreams about being a knight and a warrior, and of course, if you've read the book, you know exactly why that is. But I digress, for now at least. Um, so together, the duo of big, kind-hearted doofus and kind of mean little smart aleck kid, they spend their time kind of demeaning themselves, trying to get someone to vouch for them at the Ashford tourney, someone who remembers Sir Arlen of Pennytree and what a good man he was. Or, but no one will help them. No one will help them. Not Dondarian. Not no one. That is, well, the crux of the episode, sort of, and also, perhaps more importantly, there is also the arrival of the Targaryens to concern ourselves with. The ruling class has showed up. Like, Dunk has spent the entire show around his betters, now he is around his even betters. Um, and it's very fun to see the Targaryen people in live action, because I think these are some of my favorite batch of Targaryens, are like kind of this era. Because you've got like Aerion Brightflame, who in the book is just a wild, insane, just monster, very like Daenerys's brother or some such. But he rides in this a little bit less like grand and fiery than I was expecting. I was just kind of assuming that they'd take him to a much more obvious, they'd take him in a bit of a Joffrey direction in this. But no, in this he's a little more cruel and reserved, and they're holding off for a while. They're planning on waking the dragon, I know, soon enough. But in this, he's just a little bit of a mean spirited uh, uh, he's really just kind of a jerk, in all honesty, but no more than that yet. Um, but we also have his father, Prince Makar, who's pretty much exactly as I imagined him from the books. This dour looking, gruff, unlovely Targaryen man. This guy who just, you can see the unhappiness within him, and and then he's well contrasted with Baelor, Baelor Targaryen, Baelor Breakspear, who was kind of the guy in the first book. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw him in this, I was a little taken aback. He's just not quite as I imagined him. and he seemed, even a little bit older than I was expecting, and less overtly like my impression was that they slipped up a little bit with the casting. As in the books, Baelor is described as looking very traditionally Dornish because of his mother, who was Dornish, and that was a very important part of his character. He kind of looked Dornish, and yet he acted as the ideal Targaryen king. Uh, and so it was like this kind of interesting interplay. And I'll admit it was a poor snap judgment on my part, and I did come to regret it because the actor does an amazing job with the role. When Sir Duncan accidentally, basically walks into the room, he overhears the lords in discussion. Also, meanwhile, while he was doing that, he also walks past the girl who the tourney is supposed to be all about. It's a celebration of her birthday. She's the daughter of the lord of the castle, and she gets dialogue, which she doesn't in the book. I don't think. I don't think she's. I don't think we ever even see her. And it was supposed to be a bit of like a nod toward the sexism of Westeros. You know how it's allegedly the day all about her, but it's really about the men looking to prove their worth in like this the tourney and all. But we get this cute little interaction with Dunk and the girl, and then he accidentally stumbles into uh, Makar and Baelor grumbling, having this big discussion. And Makar swears a bit more in this than I actually remembered. I don't know if he really swears at all. I think in the book he's a little bit more like just kind of dour and reserved and grumpy. Um, but that's fine. He's an unhappy camper, so it's perfectly within character for him. But anyway, Dunk shows up and they call him in to figure out what the hell he's doing there, and Baelor gets to shine because he's so kind. I mean, it's a basically a word for word uh, of what happens in the book, but also Baylor does a great job here of being this very introspective, well thought out, well reasoned person, and he he fairly he is a fair and just leader. You can see that right away, and he tries very hard to work with Dunk here. And Dunk obviously it bumbles and stumbles and fumbles through the conversation, trying desperately not to offend anyone. And again, shout out to Peter Claffey, who just portrays Dunk as perfect. He is Duncan the Tall, and Baylor, as soon as he starts talking and we get how he is this clever and studious and kind person, I'm in. I'm all in. He is Baelor Targaryen, and I was wrong with my previous snap judgment. Um, so he ends up vouching for Dunk when he hears about Dunk's situation. He ends up saying that, like, yeah, I remember Sir Arlen of Pennytree, and I will vouch for your honor and allow you to enter the tourney. And which is such a great scene and really shows you how Baelor is built differently. It's really quite something. And later on in the episode, Dunk and Egg they get to like kind of wander around the tourney, and he needs to get a new shield with a new sigil on it, and so they go and they meet Tanzel. Is that her name, Tanzel, or maybe Tansel? Um, anyway, she's the puppeteer who just kind of works as a puppeteer. She's actually a painter, but they have this adorable interaction, also right from the book. And I just love the line about not too tall for puppets line, which is great, a great exchange, and it's brilliant. And all three actors do a great job at encapsulating the kind of cutesy awkwardness of the moment. With Egg stepping in to be Dunk's like wingman and doing a pretty good job at it. And they managed to convince Tanzel to paint Dunk his new sigil, which was also Egg's idea. So Egg is obviously the brains of the relationship. It's Fawford and the Grey Mouser a little bit. Uh, also, arguably like Shrek and Donkey or something, but I don't see that as much. But they certainly do, apparently. Anyway, that they are eventually roped into a game of tug of war, and the only reason I mention this is because it's on behalf of Sir Lionel Baratheon, who is simply awesome in this. Like, as I've said before, I have a soft spot for the Baratheons anyway, and Lionel in particular just has this a certain energy that I think is kind of rare in modern day characters. He's because he's such a like a traditional man in the world of Westeros. He's the this fighter and drinker and party guy, but also he's like unapologetically confident in his own abilities and willing to live with like the wonder and enthusiasm of a child. He has the energy of a boy, and frankly, I think that this is a bit of a Vizzy T situation, Viserys from House of the Dragon, or Bronn, even if you prefer, in which the show character is actually one of the rare instances of an improvement over the book. And which is not to say I didn't like Lionel in the book. Lionel just wasn't a character in the book, really. He was just around and, showed up to help out every once in a while and didn't have like a lot of lines of dialogue or anything. He's been much more fleshed out in this, and I love that. And the episode is capped off with a joust, a wild, brilliant, awesome joust. It was wicked and crazy, and you get to see Tullys and Hightowers, and Lionel putting on a book accurate helmet with the stag antlers and everything. It's not a safe joust. It's not like how actual medieval jousts were done. Really, it's a much more chaotic and weird. Like, but it seems like the kind of bonkers thing that would happen in the book, in the world of Westeros, right? With them leaning into that celebrity aspect of knighthood, with like you'll have your favorite champion, right? And the small folk will flock to one guy or another, and they're rooting for him all the while and hoping that he doesn't get trampled by his own horse or somebody else's, or have his head knocked off by a lance. It's really quite marvelous, and it's a good way to cap the episode with Dunk feeling dwarfed by the presence of these like amazing knights and these celebrity dudes who are really good at what they do, and he's like, how can I match up to that? But is still going to try. He's going to try, and he's going to be brave about it, which is really it's really good to see, and great seeing Dunk's internal conflict there. They're doing a great job, and honestly, that's kind of it. That's like the episode pans out with Dunk deciding that he's gonna do it. He's going to try to honor Sir Arlen's memory. It's terrific. I think I don't really have many complaints other than, like I said, a few nitpicks from before. It's pretty much just terrific, and I look forward to seeing more of this incredible show. So yeah, I've been Connor Landon Freeman, an author of fantasy and horror, and it's been a pleasure. So yeah, bye.